dance for joy, your last hope.
Welcome to Sensible Secondhand Reviews, the series where we look at sensible, practical cars that you can buy between a budget of £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 2013 Fiat 500L 1.4 Easy, but is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? So the Fiat 500L actually hasn't really got a lot to do with the standard Fiat 500 that was launched in 2007. This one, launched in 2012, is based on the same platform as things like the Fiat Grande Punto, later the Punto Evo, and then just the Punto. So originally designed with General Motors, although by the time this car was launched, the Fiat group had merged with Chrysler. The standard engine at the bottom of the range was this 1.4 fire engine, which has 93 horsepower. With this 6-speed manual gearbox, it does 0 to 60 in around 13 seconds, which isn't very fast, but you know, if you have this sort of car, maybe you're not so bothered about that sort of thing. The next one above that was a 118 brake horsepower version of 1.4 with a turbo, which developed, you know, with a lot more power. That's probably my preference, is to go with that one. There were some more powerful engines actually available in other markets. We didn't actually get those over here. The other choice is a 0.9 litre two-cylinder twin-air turbo with 104 horsepower, although I gather those aren't the most reliable units ever. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. What we do talk about instead is the very, very kind way in which I've been unleashed on a great number of cars today by Lee from LSB Car Sales Manufacturing in Berkshire. And so please have a look at the website, which I will put in the description below, to see what cars he's got for sale. He loves unusual stuff. So yeah, this car is very slow. There's no doubt about it. Definitely I want the turbo version, but lots of them, including the sport trim, just had this 93 brake horsepower 1.4. It just feels like quite a heavy car. There's a lot of body roll, but that's the sort of compromise you live with when you want relatively soft suspension so your children aren't sick when you go enthusiastically round corners. Despite looking a lot like the 2007 version of the Fiat 500, I think it's actually still on sale, that version now. This is not based on the same platform at all. It's actually based on the platform that was used by things like the Fiat Grande Punto, then Punto Evo, then just Punto, until 2018, and the Vauxhall Corsa D and the Vauxhall Corsa E. And I think it's similar to the platform that has been used for the Fiat Tipo since 2016. So it's quite a sort of large car, really, I suppose, for the Fiat 500 brand. Unusual looking car. A lot of people don't particularly like the design of this. I think it looks sort of okay. It depends if you're a real fan of it or not. It's certainly not, I don't know, the most elegant looking car I've ever seen. The facelifted models, which were renamed from the Secondhand 500L and the Tracking to the Cross and the Urban in 2017, had about 40% of their parts changed, so they do look quite different. But this is one of the early ones for 2013, which is just a year after it was launched in 2012. So, big old tailgate in this car. Massive. I've also got this adjustable height boot floor. Now you can slide the seats and do all sorts of things with them, and actually you can move this shelf if you want. I'll just put it up there for demonstration purposes. If you take this out, you can get up to 400 litres of space. For some reason the face-off models, the boot is rated at 455. I don't quite know why, but there we go. Got a nice space of a spare in there, which is good. Depends if you want to load through. I mean, you can, weirdly, you can't have that boot floor in the sort of position in the middle. It's either up here or kind of taken out. It's not that easy to use with one hand either. Can we put it sort of down? There we go. Well, that's better. It looks a lot more conventional like that, doesn't it? But yeah, I suppose it depends what you want. There's a handle here. That might be quite useful because it's about the same size as a transit van. This tailgate's a crazy one. So nice sort of wide opening doors. Very, very sort of ideal for if you've got a family or something like that. Absolutely perfect for that. Interesting sort of seat fabric in here. You know, the 500s have always had some interesting sort of interiors, and I have driven one of those some time ago now. This sort of continues the tradition. One thing I've read about this car is that if you have the panoramic sunroof, the headroom's really bad. Now it's okay if I'm just sitting here in this normal model without the sunroof. It's not as much as I would expect actually, considering how tall the car is, but it's fine. And I imagine, yeah, the roof would actually rob a lot of headroom if you had the sunroof. We've got very, very, very big door bins. Some of the biggest door bins I've ever seen in the rear of the car. It is very spacious, and we've got little trays here. Problem is that that's going to be a bit of a pain to clean that out. But, you know, you can put things in there if you've got children and all that sort of stuff. Then we've got, you know, these interesting sort of fabric seats. It's very, very unusual. Main rival that I've read to this car is sort of like a Hyundai iX20 or a Kia Venga, which is absolutely right, I should think. I've sourced tons of those for clients, actually. I've sourced maybe 5, 6 over the course of many years, and I've never really thought about these particularly, but if you do want something more of a kind of a vibrant and interesting interior, then I suppose that could be an option. What I'm going to do now is go around the other side and see if we can actually get that seat folded down and see what happens with that. So, let's get that down. Oh, there you go. You can have it like that as well if you really want. That's very useful if you've got the MPW model, which is the long wheelbase version of this, that has 7 seats. There we go. Yeah, you can recline the backrest if you want a little bit. You can move it forward. We'll just put it there. And it doesn't actually foul the seatbelt either. That's quite clever. Yeah, it's one of the more practical cars I think I've ever actually reviewed on this channel, which is good. Very versatile. Let's have a look at this side. Again, very sort of spacious, light interior in this car. And, you know, again, interesting seat fabrics. We've got a glove box up here as well as down there. I've read that it's 22 different storage compartments in one of these, but some of them will be things like the cup holders, so maybe it's not quite as impressive as you might imagine in that respect. Big door bins as well. Go around to the driver's side. Massive door mirrors as well, huge door mirrors. Electric windows and mirrors, of course. Fortunately, this is showing a little bit of signs of wear. I mean, this car is now 10 years old and it's done 66,000 miles, so maybe it's not too unusual. Little tiny cruise control stalk down here as well, which is good. It's sort of Volkswagen type location for one of those. One thing I have noticed though is this screen here is a colour screen, and we'll turn it on in a second, but it's absolutely tiny. I suppose it shows how far things have come. in the last 10 years. 6-speed manual on this car is a very, very long throw gearbox this. It's not the nicest thing I've ever used. Just moving my mount out the way so you can see we've got cup holders, aux in and USB. Very easy to use heating and ventilation controls. They're quite big. And we've got a city button as well for the power steering. You can make the power steering even more light than it is. I mean, for me, it's probably too light, but then I'm not the sort of person perhaps this car is aimed at in terms of my driving habits. I do like this sort of fabric, although that's not as soft as I was feeling. Maybe here. Yeah, that's a bit softer. It has sort of torn in certain places, so maybe it's not the longest lasting stuff. Let's see about this glove box. Let's see if we can get the mission documents in there. No problem. No problem whatsoever. That's excellent. So it is practical then. Strange handbrake like the, let's get this right, the Mark IV Fiat Panda. I've got to call it the Mark IV, why people complain. ASR off, traction control. In some of the models, things like the Trekking and the Cross, you could get traction plus or gravity control, which was a whole suite of different features, which had like hill descent control and things like that. And you got mud and snow tyres on the Trekking and the Cross versions. Although this, or the urban version, as it the standard one was called after 2017, you just got standard traction control. Right, I find the key and we'll have a look at this little display, shall we? Okay, for some reason it's showing -2 and it's not -2 at the moment for sure, but I suppose nice clear enough instruments. Here is the little touchscreen. I think it's like a 6-inch touchscreen, this one. Later models you could get a larger one. Let's just see if we've got anything exciting going on here. We probably haven't. Not really, no. Not much exciting stuff here at all. There's the settings, your phone, we've got one connected, more trip, clock and eco drive. Trip's probably boring. Eco drive, what does that do? Does it give us some tips on how to drive economically? Transfer mode. Ooh, you can actually put to a computer if you were that way inclined. Tiny, tiny back button. Very, very small. Yeah. Let's go back to radio, things like that. It's not that exciting really, but I suppose it's better than having a black and white display if you're into that kind of thing. Got volume controls and the sort of stereo select controls on here. Can we actually change the SRC on here to change the input? That's just for the radio though. That's really weird. I don't really understand. Media, does that do anything if I use the SRC button on here? Not really, no. Maybe it's because I've got nothing plugged in here. I would have expected really to have like Bluetooth or something on this car. Maybe there isn't. Okay, let's have a look at the engine, shall we? Fancy, we've got sort of gas struts in this engine bay. So this is the 1.4 fire engine. Yes, it is the old one, but that originally was introduced in about 1985 in the Fiat Uno. Developing, in this case, about 93 horsepower. Not the fastest car in the world, but loads of these actually had this engine. Even the sport model had only this non-turbo 1.4 fire engine. At least they're actually pretty dependable. Some of the earlier versions of the fire engine had problems with the head gaskets. It tends to be very reliable, obviously if you look after it and change the cam belt in the specified interval. It's actually very clean in this engine bay. I'm very impressed actually, considering how old this car is. You could get a turbo version of this engine as well, and yeah, the twin air, probably not the most reliable choice. There's simply plenty of space in there to work on it if you want to do that. But yes, probably the average 500L owner is not really going to be indulging in some home maintenance, are they? Right, let's take it out for another drive, shall we? As we previously mentioned, the 500L was facelifted in 2017, where it was divided into the urban and then the cross variants. And it continued till 2022, which is amazing to me. You don't see a lot of these around really. They're not the most popular choice over here. People would probably go for maybe like a Ford B-Max or something like that, or maybe, I don't know, Vauxhall Riva. Lots of different choices back in the day for something like this. But yeah, you know, although it's not the sharpest thing to drive, and I don't like this incredibly long gear change, and I could do with some more power. I suppose it's sort of charming enough. It's quite soft. It doesn't really seem troubled by bumps particularly, and the person who sort of aimed at this is more in love with things like the practicality and the design and the colour. The colour is actually quite nice in this car. Fiat do some excellent colours. Then the last word in, you know, performance or handling or anything like that. And so you've got to sort of compare cars like this with other cars that are in this category, as opposed to bemoaning what it doesn't have. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. Let's now look at some Fiat 500L trim levels years. Bottom of the range was the Pop, and then the Pop Star, the Easy, like this one, the Lounge. See what Fiat did there. The Mirror, the Urban, which was the name of this standard version from 2017 onwards. The Connect, the Sport, the Beats Edition, the 120th anniversary. The Hey Google. I always find Fiat Hey Google trim levels a bit strange. The Trekking, which was later renamed the Cross after the facelift, that came with standard button snow tyres, and it had a raised ride height of about 25mm, I think. The design, the Cross and the City Cross. So viewers, should you consider a Fiat 500L, or, you know, a LMPW or Wagon, whichever longer versions of this, for your hard-earned budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. Well, if you can live with some interior bits which maybe aren't the sort of hardest wearing, and you know, you make sure you look after your Fiat 500L, then I suppose it'll be okay. Not the nicest thing I've ever driven, really, and you know, they're not very fast with this 1.4 non-turbo engine, but you know, you either like the styling and you really want one, or you don't. I think this car was also used in what was it? That series with James Corden. I can't remember the name of it now. But thank you ever so much. Thank you ever so much once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more reasonably priced motoring.
Every day with blue skies.